With Scott picking up the slack for the departed Lewis, the '68 Tar Heels didn't miss a beat, going 28-4 and repeating as ACC champions behind Miller's second straight MVP performance. The 1968 season was capped off by the national championship matchup between Carolina and John Wooden's UCLA Bruins, led by the towering center Lou Alcindor. UCLA's win over the Tar Heels came in the midst of an incredible 12-year stretch in which the Bruins won 10 NCAA titles. Miller was gone in 1969, but behind the great senior class of Grubar, Clark, and Bunting, the Tar Heels were going for their third straight ACC championship. That streak was in jeopardy in the tournament final when UNC trailed Duke by 9 at the half. It was time for Great Scott to earn his nickname.
Broken up by Bunting, recaptured by Scott. Here's his drive down, up for the shot. Oh, what a move!
Charlie Scott finished with 40 points and was named tournament MVP. Scott was again called on in the East Regional Final against Davidson as the teams were tied late in the game.
All right, over to Delaney. 8 seconds. They got to shoot pretty soon. Here's Delaney back to Scott. Charlie's at the circle, up for the shot, and it's good! And the ball game is over. North Carolina has won 87-85. Charlie Scott pumped it in there for the victory at the last second to give the Tar Heels an 87-85 victory. Phenomenal Charlie Scott, the great Scott. He did it again.
That dramatic finish capped an incredible string, one that may never be duplicated again. 3 straight regular season conference championships, 3 straight ACC tournament titles, 3 straight Eastern Regional championships. The new decade brought some pleasant surprises to Carolina basketball. Most who were in the know felt the 71 team would finish near the bottom of the ACC. As is often the case, the experts weren't even close. The highlight of that surprising season came on January 4, when a familiar face returned to Chapel Hill. Frank McGuire brought his latest collection of New Yorkers from Columbia, South Carolina to Carmichael. Roach, Riker, Owens, and the rest of the Gamecocks were ranked second in the nation, but led by a scrappy sophomore point guard named George Karl, UNC shocked South Carolina 79-64. The 71 Tar Heels surprised everyone and captured the ACC regular season championship. But a heartbreaking loss to McGuire's Gamecocks in the final of the ACC tournament kept these Heels out of the NCAA tournament. So as McGuire's New Yorkers went on to the NCAA, Dean Smith took his team to New York to play in the NIT. In the Big Apple, Carolina beat future Hall of Famer Julius Erving and his Massachusetts team, then rolled over Providence and Duke before smashing Georgia Tech 84-66 for the NIT title. Fitting, too, in the Big Apple that New York City native Bill Chamberlain scored 34 points in the championship game and was named the tournament's most valuable player.
I didn't feel like an MVP. I felt like we had a great team victory, and we did have a great team victory. But the guys hoisted me up on their shoulders, and I was at home, and my parents were there, so it was nice.
There would be more surprises in '72. For the only time in his tenure, Smith went looking for top talent in the junior college ranks. He found a Greensboro, North Carolina native, 6'9" Bob McAdoo, who had just led Vincennes Junior College to the National Junior College Championship. A standard line heard at the time was, "We know what Coach Smith will do, but what will McAdoo?" Everyone soon found out as the Tar Heels fought their way to a 26-5 record, an ACC regular season and tournament championship, and another trip to the Final Four.
McAdoo was a great player. That was the best team that I played on at North Carolina, team that got to the Final Four.
There was a significant rule change the following season as freshmen were again eligible to play, and one young New York recruit showed signs of making great contributions to the Tar Heel program. His tenacity and work ethic paved a career that left him second on Carolina's all-time rebounding list.
Mitch really gave us a lot. He gave us a size inside, not just rebounding, which was really one of his strengths, but his offense. He was very strong under the boards and could put the ball back in.
Bobby Jones himself continued to make his mark as the ultimate all-around role player for the Tar Heels. Kupchak credits Jones with making a profound impact on the way he played.
But nobody really covered the court and ran like Bobby Jones did. And a lot of times I was matched up against him in practice, and I'd have to run with him. Big guys are normally kinds of guys that were the last guys up and down the court.
Jones, an inspirational player to Kupchak and the rest of the team, was most inspired, oddly enough, not after a win, but after the Heels bowed out of the '73 ACC tournament.
I remember walking off the court, and everybody was disappointed, including Coach Smith. And Coach Smith stopped me before we got to the locker room, and he said to me, he said, "Bobby, I just want to tell you, I appreciate the way you played today." And that really made an impact on my life, especially to me as a coach now, because, you know, he had a lot of things on his mind. He had alumni, he had the media he had to face, and everybody else, but he cared enough about me as a player to just to stop by and just say a few words of encouragement to me, and that's always stuck with me. I've always remembered that in my life.
As the '74 season rolled around, more freshmen began following Mitch Kupchak's lead, making their own impact from day one. This time it was a kid from Pineville, North Carolina, who had such a smooth, silky jump shot that most simply called him Sweet D. He may have been a relatively unknown freshman at first, but for what he accomplished on March 2, 1974, he would be remembered forever. Carmichael Auditorium was virtually silent as the Tar Heels trailed arch-rival Duke by 8 points with only 17 seconds to play. But Smith calmed his troops, and when Bobby Jones sank both ends of a 1-and-1 to trim the Blue Devil lead to 6, it looked as though another of Smith's last-minute scripts was about to unfold.
But, you know, he was so, methodical, in the way he ran that last minute of the game that we never really had time to think about we're going to lose this game. And it was like, okay, we're down by 8, 17 seconds left. Bobby, make these 2 free throws. After you make the free throws, steal the inbounds pass, score a bucket, call timeout. So we did it.
After a Carolina timeout, Walter Davis stole the inbounds attempt and fed a wide-open John Kuster to reduce the margin to 4. Another turnover resulted in a Bobby Jones rebound basket, and the Heels were now within 2. Smith used another timeout. 6 seconds remaining. As Duke put the ball in play, the Tar Heels immediately fouled Pete Kramer. Sent to the line for a 1-and-1, the usually accurate Kramer missed the front end, and Ed Stahl grabbed the rebound. Carolina immediately used its last timeout.
Kupchak will make the long front court pass. Gets it to Walter Davis. 2-1. Walter takes the shot. It goes! The game is up! Unbelievable!
And I think we got him maybe a 20-footer, and when I saw where he was, I wasn't happy with that till it went in, and then way to go, Walter.
I took 2 or 3 dribbles because I caught the ball at half court, just try to shorten it as much as I could. That's not my normal shot to bank it from facing the goal, so it was very lucky. I think the next day in practice, Coach Smith wanted to see if I could make it, and I shot an air ball.
The Heels went on to win in overtime 96-92. Preserving the most incredible comeback in the history of college basketball.
When you play for Dean Smith, he's got you convinced, you don't think about losing. You don't.
Aside from the unbelievable comeback win over Duke, the '74 season served as an important landmark. Never again has a North Carolina basketball team been left out of NCAA tournament play. Another freshman had Carolina fans anticipating the next round ball campaign in 1975. 300-plus recruiters had stalked this Rocky Mount, North Carolina native. But Phil Ford, an incredibly energetic and talented point guard, chose to stay home and attend Carolina.
Some coaches were promising me that if I went to their school that I'd be the starting guard and the ball would be in my hands for 4 years and they were going to build their team around me. And Coach Smith didn't even promise me I'd play varsity. He told me I may have to play JV. And the more I thought about that, and that really appealed to my mom, the honesty.
While that was a defining moment for Ford, his coach points to a different one, the squad's annual mile run, a preseason challenge that gave Smith a good idea of what the talented rookie had inside.
In that mile run, we're counting down. To get out of sprints, he had to do under 5 minutes on the mile. And he heard the count, 4:56, 4:50. And he goes diving across on cinders to make his time in a meaningless mile run. And I didn't even shake hands. I just walked away, and I forget whether it's Bill Guthridge or John Lotz. I said, "Gentlemen, we have a player."
Bill Ford went on to become the consummate college point guard, shooter, assist man, floor general. He also has the distinction of becoming the first freshman under Dean Smith to start his first game in a Carolina uniform.
He was the best guard that I had ever played with. He did things on the basketball floor as a freshman when when you first saw the first 360, I had not seen that move at all. And he was doing it coming full speed, and it was the prettiest move that I've ever seen in basketball.
Smith used Ford's talents most effectively at the helm of the offense that had now become a household word. The four corners, or Ford corners as many referred to it at this time. It had been part of Smith's arsenal for years, but nobody ever ran it like Phil Ford. Sometimes as a speeding bullet, sometimes as a spinning top, Ford did what Smith told him to do, often taking over games in the process. Led by Ford, the 75 team finished second in the ACC, but began to peak at just the right time. In what may still be the most exciting ACC tournament ever played, the Tar Heels nipped Wake Forest and Clemson, both in overtime, to advance to the final, where they would face defending national champion North Carolina State. Ford and his teammates ran the four corners to perfection, topping David Thompson and the defending champions 70-66, to cap a tournament in which the widest margin of victory had been 6 points, and an average margin was just 3. And to sweeten the experience, Ford was the first freshman to be named tournament MVP. Expectations were high for the next season. Captained by Bill Chambers, Dave Hanners, and Mitch Kupchak, who was named ACC Player of the Year, the Tar Heels captured the regular season title with an 11-1 mark, winning every conference game away from home. Unfortunately, an upset loss to Virginia in the ACC final and a first-round NCAA tournament loss to Alabama led to a frustrating early exit for the Tar Heels. But no one would have to wait 8 more months for Tar Heel hoops, as attention now turned to basketball at the Summer Olympic Games in Montreal, where a Tar Heel version of the old red, white, and blue took on the world. Team USA looked an awful lot like Team UNC. Walter Davis, Tom Lagarde, Mitch Kupchak, Phil Ford, assistant coach Bill Guthridge, head coach Dean Smith were all there. Questioned by some for having so many of his own and ACC players on the team, Smith quieted his critics by sweeping the competition. 6 straight wins, and the Carolina contingent had earned its weight in gold.
That was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I think the older I get, the more it means to have been an Olympian, to be associated with the Olympic team, to have been and lived in the Olympic Village, and just the atmosphere is just really something unbelievable. And the fact that Coach Smith took 12 different personalities and blended them to one thing, the only thing that we had on our mind was winning a gold medal.
After conquering the world, Coach Smith and his Tar Heels turned their attention to conquering the ACC. There's no question the 1977 team rode the momentum of its Summer Olympic success onto a first-place regular season finish. But it was no easy task, as Tommy Lagarde was lost for the year at mid-season.
And that's why that year is so special to all of us associated with it. To have Tommy Lagarde, your first-team All-American, go down in February with a knee injury and be out for the rest of the season, I thought that's the end of this team.
It got worse before it got better. In the semis of the ACC tournament against North Carolina State, Walter Davis broke his finger, sending UNC's sharpshooter to the sideline to join Lagarde. Looking more like a MASH unit than a basketball team in the final, the Tar Heels got an emotional lift when Smith sent Davis into the game in the second half of a tense finale.
And Coach Smith didn't want me to play at all, but I kept begging him to play, and so finally, I think there in the second half, he put me in. I think I only played a minute, but the crowd had a big roar, and I think it inspired our team.
We were so intense on our defense during that time, it was like somebody put new bodies into all of us. Holy smokes, Walter's coming. He cares so much. Everybody just picked it up another notch.
A surprising star on a team suddenly full of them, senior John Kuster earned MVP honors with his gutty-inspired play throughout the tournament. In the NCAA tournament, UNC edged Purdue, Notre Dame, and Kentucky to gain yet another trip to the Final Four. But during the tough win over the Fighting Irish, fate again had been unkind to the Heels. Ford hyperextended the elbow on his shooting hand and never regained full strength the rest of the season. Instead of folding, other Tar Heels stepped up. One of those was Kuster, who frustrated Kentucky with his four-corner ball handling and second-half free throw shooting to down the Wildcats and take the regional crown. Thus, the Heels returned to the Final Four for the first time in 5 years, and they accomplished it amazingly with injuries to 3 of their starters.
You know, you think of Tommy's knee and Walter's finger and my elbow, but that's part of the game. You know, I think in order to win national championships, you have to be good, of course, but I think you also have to be lucky and you have to be healthy. If you do those 3 things, you've got a great shot at it.
1 out of 3 almost got it done at the '77 Final Four in Atlanta. The Heels were good, but lucky and healthy they were not. Among the very good was freshman Mike O'Corin, who scored 31 points in a fast-paced 84-83 win over UNLV's Runnin' Rebels in the national semifinal.
To see him play like that was just unbelievable. I mean, he played so hard, and he left so much out on the court that he actually collapsed in the dressing room after the game.
Carolina suffered a disappointing loss in the final, but the 77 Tar Heels will go down as one of the most courageous groups in Carolina history. Despite the loss of 5 seniors, expectations were high for Ford's senior year, one that would see him become North Carolina's 4th National Player of the Year. Bill Ford had provided 4 dizzying, electrifying years, leaving as the school's all-time leading assist man and leading scorer, the latter a record he still holds. The memories of his talent and hustle are many, yet there is one that lingers best. February 25, 1978, that final game in Carmichael against Duke for the regular season crown. At center court before the game, the ovation was long and loud. There was Ford, trying to fight back the tears. And then, at game time, he exploded, his incredible individual effort toppling the Blue Devils.
To Virgil. Virgil from 15 feet. Would not go. Wolf tapping outside to Ford. Ford from 23 feet. 2!
Ford seemingly couldn't miss, finishing with a career-high 34 points. There he was after his final free throw sealed the win, turning and breaking down the floor, rejoicing in the moment.
That was an unbelievable performance. And I think never is there more pressure on your National Player of the Year, first-team All-American, 3-time All-American, going to the line in his last home game to win it and make those foul shots, and he did.
After Ford's graduation, most did not expect much from the 79 Tar Heels. Yet that UNC team put together a surprising campaign, winning the ACC regular season and tournament championships and finding themselves in the NCAA tournament for a 5th straight time. O'Corin earned first-team All-America honors for the 2nd year in a row, and sophomore Al Wood turned a lot of heads. But this was the year of the Secretary of Defense, Dudley Bradley. Bradley had earned the nickname earlier, but solidified his legend in a 1979 game at NC State.
15 seconds remain. Austin coming front court. Across the timeline with 10. Knocked away. Dudley Bradley. Dudley Bradley for the stop. 70 to 68. 3, 2, 1. Matthews off balance, off the glass. Dudley Bradley's defense did it.
What an ending. It just, to have 12,400 people immediately shut up is unbelievable.
The 79 Heels went on to win the ACC tournament behind Bradley's MVP performance. They finished 23-6. Basketball gurus marveled at Smith's handling of a team that was supposed to have struggled and named him ACC and National Coach of the Year. To begin a new decade, Smith pulled a familiar ploy, turning to his 5 seniors to keep UNC going in the right direction. Highlighting the season was the scrappy play of O'Corin, who was voted first-team All-America for the 3rd consecutive season. Jeff Wolf had a shining moment of his own with back-to-back dunks on Virginia's Ralph Sampson. With a 96-71 thrashing of rival Duke in the final game of the regular season, the Tar Heels finished tied for 2nd in the conference. And by finishing 21-8, they preserved a string of 10 straight seasons with 20 or more victories. The 81 Tar Heel team continued another familiar Smith trend, tapping into the best talent New York had to offer. Freshman Sam Perkins and Matt Doherty joined James Worthy, senior Al Wood, and another New Yorker, Jimmy Black. The Tar Heels won their 9th ACC tournament championship with a pair of narrow victories, and Perkins became only the 2nd freshman to be named tournament MVP. Despite being sent to the West Regional, Carolina knocked off Pitt, Utah, and Kansas State to qualify for its 2nd Final Four in 5 years. The site was Philadelphia, the Heels' semifinal opponent, Ralph Sampson and Virginia. The Cavaliers had beaten UNC twice in the regular season, but this time the Wahoos ran into an unconscious Al Wood, whose 39 points still ranks as the most points ever scored in an NCAA semifinal.
I have very few times in following Carolina ever felt like there was electricity in the building. But that night at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, I mean, there was really electricity in the air. I think Al could have gone outside in the parking lot and made it, thrown it back in the building, had gone in that night.
After the euphoria of the 78-65 semifinal win over Virginia, there was little left in a 63-50 loss to Indiana in the championship game. Was there disappointment? Yes. But out of that loss and experience, the 1982 team found its heart, its soul, and its purpose.
If you've been to the finals and failed to win and you're mad leaving, like the 81 team was, they weren't celebrating. you know, because Al did graduate, and we didn't know we had a guy named Jordan coming in that would do what he did. But what we did was we dedicated to let's come get back again and win it all. And that was the battle cry throughout the 81-82 season, so I think that certainly helped.
5 new faces arrived on campus for the 81-82 campaign. All quickly adopted the Tar Heel dream. Included in that lot was a kid from Wilmington, North Carolina, who listed among his favorite movies Superman, Superman 2, and who wanted a shot at professional basketball after graduation. Mike Jordan, as the UNC media guide listed him, was simply a freshman, but his ever-present competitive spirit made him an important element in the magic of 1982.
Just came in with a clear mind and, ready to play basketball. Do what coach asked me to and, trying to fit in just, where he wanted me to.
Led by senior point guard Jimmy Black, this group of Tar Heels was tabbed #1 in the preseason and made good on that lofty ranking by winning their first 13 games. But after 2 losses in the next 5, the mission seemed to be derailed when the seniors called a team meeting back at the dorm.
We just decided not to allow the external factors to, enter into the team locker room, or, we knew we had a challenge, and we just didn't want a whole lot of distractions.
By the time the ACC race drew to a close, Carolina had won 12, lost 2, and was regular season champion. Wins over Georgia Tech and State in the ACC tournament meant one more showdown with old nemesis Ralph Sampson and Virginia. The Tar Heels' 47-45 victory gave them their 2nd straight and 10th ACC championship overall. At 27-2, this team was coming to grips with making its dream a reality.
I can remember Coach Eddie Fogler saying, right after we had won the tournament, everybody was cutting down the nets, and he came up to me in particular and said, well, that's not really the net I want.
After a close call against James Madison in the NCAA tournament opener, the Tar Heels reeled off solid wins over Alabama and Villanova to reach the 2nd straight Final Four. The Hakeem Olajuwon Clyde Drexler-led fraternity of Phi Slamma Jamma from Houston provided a stiff challenge in the semis. But Perkins took center stage in a convincing win over the Cougars, and Carolina was back in the national final. There, the Tar Heels' big game experience proved crucial. Georgetown's Patrick Ewing tried to intimidate early, swatting away every Tar Heel shot that dared to go close to the hoop. But this team wouldn't allow itself to be intimidated or denied, especially Worthy, who muscled his way to a career-high 28 points.
In the second half, he had 2 dunks on Sleepy Floyd, I think. That after the game, I said, James, what was Sleepy thinking? Sleepy 6'2", 6'3", trying to go up and dunk James's, breakaway. And James, not too many, nobody's going to block that. And James said, and he's real low-key. James says, I don't know, he tried to do that to me in high school, too. And I asked him what were the results. He said, they were the same.
Despite Worthy's efforts, this incredible 40-minute drama came down to the final seconds and the final possession. When Carolina called time with 32 seconds left, the Tar Heels trailed by 1.
I knew Coach Thompson was in the zone, and I knew he'd stay in the zone. Just don't let Worthy beat us. I'm sure that's what he's saying. Or Perkins, but mainly Worthy, because John was a Worthy fan. And with that in mind, we had a little play we called 2, which I thought would happen right away, where we do look inside, but we can throw back across the zone and to the 2 guard, and in this case would be Michael.
As Michael was leaving the huddle, Coach, grabbed him and sort of said, if you get it, knock it in.
And that is exactly what happened.
Guardian the double team, gives it back to Black with 20 seconds left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan, jumper from out on the left, good! Georgetown with 1 timeout. Fred Brown looking, throw away to Worthy! Worthy 5! The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship!
I said, how about those Tar Heels have won the national championship? And then suddenly I looked down to my left, and here's Coach Smith calling everybody over to the bench, and I thought to myself, oh my, he doesn't think it's won yet, so I better hold off.
Worthy missed both free throws, but Georgetown's desperation shot wasn't close. 63-62. The Tar Heels had their first national championship in 25 years, and thanks to Jimmy Black and his teammates, Dean Smith had his first national crown.
Without Jimmy, we don't win. He was a great point guard, a very good defender. He took care of business, and without Jimmy, we don't cut down the nets in New Orleans.
25,000 fans met the champs back at the Hill, and all relived that one unforgettable night. Perhaps it was fitting. The championship team that went 32-2 witnessed the beginning of another dream. Less than 3 weeks after the victory over Georgetown, Carolina officials held a groundbreaking for a new arena, a new blue heaven, that would soon become the hallowed home of UNC's growing number of championship banners for years to come. The '83 season began on an unusual note when, for the first time in Dean Smith's career, the Tar Heels lost their first 2 games of the season. They were close to being 0-3 before Jordan hit a dramatic game-tying shot against Tulane. Carolina went on to win that one and 27 more, while finishing first in the ACC regular season and making it to the NCAA Final 8. Another classic Jordan memory came against Lefty Drizel's Maryland Terrapins, or actually, against Lefty's son Chuck. Carolina led by 1 with seconds to go when Michael made a play for the ages.
Drizel drives the baseline, it's blocked. Ball's out of bounds, there's no time left on the clock.
Still another gem in the Jordan collection came when number 2 ranked Virginia visited Carmichael on February 10, 1983. The Heels trailed the Sampson-led Cavaliers by 16 with 8 minutes 43 seconds to play.
I just remember Coach Smith saying on the bench, and he said it, a couple times, wouldn't it be fun to win this game?
It was fun, as the Carmichael crowd, perhaps the loudest ever in the historic building, helped to rattle the Cavaliers. The UVA lead was down to 3, and the rest was the Michael Jordan show.
And out, tip is good. Michael Jordan. It's a 1-point lead. Michael Jordan now with 14 points. Virginia leads by 1 with 1 minute to play. Michael Jordan, remember, has 4 fouls on him. He's playing very aggressively. There's a steal. Takes it away from Carlisle. Bam! And the Tar Heels go in front with 50 seconds to play. 64-63, and Carmichael just erupted. Unbelievable. Michael Jordan is so quick.
And I remember running in the locker room and saying, Michael, I said, that was Superman, like 2 separate words. And then I realized what I said. I just called him Superman.
In '84, with the addition of a talented freshman class to go with Perkins, Doherty, Jordan, Brad Dougherty, and Steve Hale, many expected the Tar Heels to contend again for the national championship. It certainly looked that way, as the Heels won their first 21 games. But Carolina's fortunes ran sour on January 29 against LSU, when point guard Kenny Smith went down with a broken wrist. UNC still went on to a 28-3 overall record and an unblemished mark in the conference, preserved by Matt Doherty's heroics in the final home game.
Wolf gets the ball into Matt Doherty. Clock's at 6, 5. Matt Doherty coming quickly front court. Stops, shoots, scores! 1 second left to play. The game has gone into overtime.
The Tar Heels went on to win in double overtime. Carolina finished the season ranked number 1, and then the individual accolades began to roll in. Sam Perkins was named first-team All-America for the 3rd straight year and joined Jack Cobb, Bill Ford, and Mike O'Koren as the only Tar Heels in that exclusive club. And oh yes, number 23. He was again named National Player of the Year. With that award, the UNC junior decided to take his game and the NBA to another level.
I never got the experience to give my senior speech or show my leadership as captain on the team. But, all those I missed. But, I got to look back on 3 good years that I had, and I really enjoyed it, and I don't think it's anything can replace it.
Throughout the years at Carolina, hundreds of talented players have willingly sacrificed individual statistics for the good of the team. There is no better example than that of Michael Jordan. In his 3 years in Chapel Hill, fans caught only flashes, glimpses, mere snapshots of the incredible star he would later become. He was ACC Rookie of the Year, All-America in 1983 and '84, 2-time National Player of the Year. But did anyone really anticipate what was yet to come? Perhaps there were sparks, those flashes of brilliance that now, looking back, seem to linger and last as long as his leaps toward the basket. They were all just teases, it appears, previews of what became one amazing highlight reel when UNC's Michael Jordan moved on to conquer bigger worlds.